Call the June 3rd meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Can I please have the roll call?
Andre Spinelli.
Here.
Jared Gardner.
Here.
Radhika Krishna. Here. Jim Winchester.
Here.
Scott Pullis.
Here.
Jeff Ron.
Here.
Brandy Eber.
Here.
Daniel George.
Here.
Greg Strike.
Here.
You have a quorum. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, May 20th meeting? It's moved by Commissioner Krishna, seconded by Commissioner Strike. Is there any corrections or objections to the minutes? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Any disclosures from the commission? Seeing none. We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? It's moved by Commissioner Strike, seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Is anybody wishing to pull anything for discussion? Any objections to the consent agenda? Hearing none, consent agenda is approved. We'll now move to the public hearings. I will start, or maybe let's back up. Is there a motion to combine case 2024-0061 and S12778? It's moved by Commissioner Strike, seconded by Commissioner Ron. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. Now I'll read the procedures by which the public may speak to the commission at its meeting. After the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in commission rules of procedure. A, the petitioners, including his or her representatives, will receive 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. B, representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc. will receive 5 minutes, and individuals will receive 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the commission. Any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the planning director within 7 days of the commission's decision made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal in accordance with AMC 2103-050A4A. Commission recommendations to the Anchorage Assembly are not appealable. Following approval of the written findings of fact and decision, any party of interest may within 20 days file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with 2103-050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the planning director on the form prescribed by the municipality. If the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant's notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. We will move on to case 2024-0046. Can we please have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an amendment to a de facto conditional use permit for an existing telecommunications facility. AT&T and Mastech are proposing to install a new 30-kilowatt standby generator at an existing telecommunication facility located at 18540 Whirlway Road. The existing 65-foot monopole tower was installed in 2011 after acquiring the required administrative site plan under Old Code, case 2011-044, Notice of Zoning Action 2011-026649-0. The installation of this standby generator will create reliable, consistent, and safe telecommunication service to the community that uses this site. The standby generator will be operated solely during planned and unplanned power service disruptions. The generator will also run periodically for service testing approximately 4 times per year. Construction is planned for this summer once all the permits have been acquired. This site will take access off an existing driveway from Whirlway Road. A pre-application conference was held on March 28, 2023, in accordance with AMC 2103080C2. A community meeting was held online on February 14, 2024, in accordance with 2103080C3. 134 public hearing notices were mailed on May 8, 2024. As of this writing, no responses have been received from the public. The Eagle River Valley Community Council did not provide comments. Municipal reviewing agencies have no objection to this amendment for a 30-kilowatt standby generator. Their comments are attached and can be found starting on page 43 of your staff packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission may approve a conditional use application if, in the judgment of the Commission, all of the following 9 criteria have been met in all material matters. Planning staff has found that 8 of the 9 standards have been met and that standard 4 may be met. The proposed standby generator will be located within the existing 30 by 30 leased area. However, the projected or actual noise level of the standby generator during power outages or testing has not been determined. Therefore, noise analysis may be required to identify noise mitigation measures to surrounding residential properties. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this amendment to a de facto conditional use subject to conditions 1 through 3, found on page 6 of your staff packet. The applicant also provided a lay on the table PowerPoint that does show the 65 decibels of what the generator will run. It's about the 7th page in, and they are here to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Commissioner Strike.
Yes, thank you, and through the chair, just a quick question. Is this generator replacing an existing generator? You use the term new generator.
Through the chair, Commissioner Strike, this is a new generator. There is not one currently at this site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ron.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you, staff, for that quick presentation. Question about the noise requirements. Could you refresh the commission as to what they are?
Through the chair, Commissioner Ron, if you turn to the very back of your packet, pages 70 and 71, mainly 70, this is a residential district abutting another residential property. So at the property line, decibels between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. are not supposed to be above 60. Between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., they're not supposed to be above 50. Also, the closest properties to the north, so property line to the north, closest property line is 115 feet. Closest property line to the east is 79 feet. Closest residence structure to the north is 140 feet, and closest structure to the east is 120 feet. The structure to the east there's a pretty dense canopy of existing vegetation that's there and will still exist there. Whirlaway does separate these 2 properties to the north.
Is the petitioner here? You'd like to step forward and provide presentation? Oh, you got to push the button down below. There you go.
Right.
Oh, you had it on. Push the button again. There will be a light on the microphone like this, but you got to push the button down below. Oh, there you go.
I know, that's my first time. Hi, my name is Alexis Gutteridge. I represent AT&T, and so yes, we would like to install a generator. There is no generator right now at the site, and we would like to have a backup power. So the site is accessible for 911 calls 24/7, because this site carrying a FirstNet, and FirstNet is for first responders, police, fire, and emergency calls. So this site is an existing telecommunication facility and operates unmanned 24/7, 365 days a year to provide wireless telecommunication. The standby generator will be operated solely during planned or unplanned power service disruptions, planned service dates, or unplanned power outages. The generator will also be run periodically for service testing, approximately 4 times per year. It also will generally run for half an hour on Tuesday morning to confirm operability. Like Paul said, the construction plan for summer 2024. The underlying land is owned and managed by Municipality of Anchorage. Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility, whereas the tower is owned by AT&T as its facility. The ground lease area is controlled by AT&T through the lease with Municipality of Anchorage Water. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I see no, Commissioner Polis.
I think we all agree that a 911 call center is pretty important. Basically, what I've seen in the noise level stuff is the generator will probably offer or run about 5 decibels above the allowed operating sounds. Have you thought about any mitigation if somebody does complain, what you could do to bring the noise volume down a little bit, like a big tall fence, or have you guys thought about that at all? Do you know?
Can my construction manager, Nicholas Paropoulos, answer this question? Thank you.
Please
Hey, guys.
state your name, please.
My name's Nicholas Paropoulos. I'm a construction manager for Mastech, who AT&T uses for our construction program up here. Yes, we can install a silencer if somebody has a complaint. We do that sort of stuff all the time. It's not a big deal. So they can reach out to the tower owner, and the tower owner reaches out to AT&T, and then they call us, and we go fix it. Basically, is how it shakes down. So, yeah.
Commissioner George.
Thank you. Through the chair, I want to echo my colleague, Commissioner Polis's comment. I believe this is critical infrastructure. I think having 911 service and reliable communications is critically important. I guess I had a little too much time on my hand, so I pulled the technical specifications since you provided the model of the generator. It's not particularly large. I mean, it's something I would expect to see on a home, maybe even around the area. But I noticed that the 65 decibel number appears to be with a sound cover installed, not just a weather cover. So I just wanted to confirm with you that you are in fact going to install this with the sound cover option.
Yes, that's pretty much a standard package that we buy with these. It's all inclusive. We install these all over the place. So it's our standard unit. It comes with that, for sure.
Okay. Just to reassure folks. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Hatcher?
Through the chair, like Commissioner George said, that's 65 decibels at the unit. So now you're talking, 70 feet away to the next closest property, or 79 or 115 feet away. And so if it's still creating that 60 or 50, more than 60 or more than 50 decibels, that's when we'd have to look at other mitigation processes.
Through the chair, just to clarify and expound upon that, yes, thank you for pointing that out. The unit itself, and I believe if I interpret the way the code is written, the 60 decibel and 50 decibel limits are at the receiving property line. So we've got quite a distance for attenuation and just dissipation of sound. So there's a high probability that this will not exceed the zoning requirements. Thank you.
Any other questions? I see no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open this public hearing this hearing to public testimony. Is anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, petitioner, you have 8 minutes for rebuttal if you'd like to use that time.
I think I'm good, thank you.
Okay, any final questions from the commission? We will close the public hearing. What is the will of the body? We have a motion by Commissioner Krishna, seconded by Commissioner Strike. Commissioner Krishna, would you like to state your motion?
Sure. I move in case 2024-0046 to approve an amendment to a de facto conditional use of an existing telecommunication facility for the addition of a standby generator, subject to the conditions shown on page 6 of the staff report.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. I believe the conditions of approval are met, or 8 of them are. The final one will be met with the passage of the department recommendation number 2, which requires the petitioner to monitor and mitigate noise levels originating from the standby generator as needed to ensure noise levels remain within the maximum set forth by AMC 15.70.080. And I'd also like to add that no public comments were received in opposition.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? Seeing none, Commissioner Strike.
Just want to go further on the findings that there were 134 public hearing notices sent out and nothing received back.
Okay, we will call for the vote.
Ms. Eber, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. Okay, we will move on to the combined cases 2024-0061 and S12778. We please have the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start with case 61, the area master plan and development master plan. There's the G2 packet number 1, which contains a resolution from the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. And then there's the G2 packet number 2 that has a public comment. I wanted to begin with just the definition of an area master plan. An area master plan is intended to facilitate the planned development of large tracts of land under unified ownership or control. The area master plan shall establish the general arrangement of land uses, circulation, and infrastructure systems for the identified development areas. And then the definition of a development master plan. A development master plan is intended to shape and manage future growth of a site and provide certainty to the community by stating a clearly articulated vision for the character, layout, design of the development of the site. So in the GRST 2 district, you have to have first an area master plan and then a development master plan. The resort has an area master plan, and with this application, they're applying for modifications, and they're also applying for approval of phase 1 development master plan approval. I think that it might be helpful to the commission to turn to page 28 of your packet. On page 28, you'll see a printout of one page from the Girdwood area plan. This is the land use plan map in the Girdwood area plan, and the purple color is the resort land use designation. And what we've done here is just to label tract A, B, C, D, A1, V, and the tract A expansion area. because I'm going to quickly launch into referring to tracks A and B and the tract A expansion area, and those aren't, commonly understood where they are, but you now will be able to see where they are. So Alyeska Resort is requesting modifications to the Alyeska Resort Area Master Plan for increases in the allowable amount of residential and commercial development within Tract A, which is where the hotel is, and Tract B, which is where the lower parking lot is. The resort is also proposing new community uses along with residential development on the Tract A expansion area, that Glacier Creek Village, as well as Tract B. In addition to modifications to the area master plan, the resort is also seeking development master plan approval, which is required prior to development. The resort is requesting approval of the first of 4 phases of their of a development master plan to allow construction to begin next summer. Alyeska Resort plans to build a variety of new housing around the existing hotel. The resort plans to expand the commercial space in the hotel and to develop a mixed-use building with commercial retail on the lower level and residential units above, as well as several resort amenities, including a convention center building and a ski school. The area master plan modifications will add several community uses that were not previously envisioned in the area master plan. They are a non-commercial community use Nordic ski hut, a new building for the Little Bears Playhouse Preschool, and a recreational center. The recreational center will have a covered NHL-size ice rink, a fitness center, and an aquatic center. These new facilities are intended for the public to use. The area master plan modifications allow greater development intensities for both residential and commercial uses on tracks A and B. That's the hotel, where the hotel is, and the lower parking lot is the track B. So around the hotel, as well as residential development and a community use ski hut on the Tract A expansion area near Glacier Creek. The hotel and the ski mountain will be connected to the Tract A expansion area via the Pulse gondola to improve access to skiing and reduce the need for vehicles, driving. State and municipal reviewing agencies have no objection to the area master plan modifications and this phase 1 development master plan. The reviewing agency comments are enclosed in your packets. 1,148 public hearing notices were mailed on May 8th. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors provided a resolution, and also 1 public comment was received. The Planning Department finds that the approval criteria for area master plan are met, and I'm going to go through these in a little bit of detail. So for approval criterion A, the proposed modification to the Alyeska Resort Area Master Plan conformed to the Girdwood Code and to the 1995 Girdwood Area Plan Land Use Plan Map. Both tracks A and B are identified as resort in the land use plan map. Both tracks A and B are also zoned GRST 2 district. So what does the Girdwood Chapter 9 code say the GRST district is? This is the new base resort district. It says in the code that this district is the Alyeska Resort ski slopes, the Alyeska Prince Hotel, and adjoining parking lot, the undeveloped area between the original mountain base area and the Alyeska Prince Hotel, and an undeveloped area lying north of the Prince Hotel across Moose Meadows Creek. The latter area is suitable for future base development. The intent of this district is to maintain and expand the current development for alpine skiing and tourism. Now, in the next part of my report, I just read to you what the Girdwood Area Plan says about what is the meaning of this resort designation that you find on the land use plan map. These are areas that are substantially developed with facilities and services that have a primary relationship to major commercial recreational resource and that are expected to remain so for the duration of the plan. The vacant areas are best suited for resort use. The expansion area of Tract A, so I'm turning back to my staff report. The expansion area of Tract A is also shown as resort in the Girdwood area plan and is zoned GRST2. So the Tract A expansion area is both designated for a resort in the Girdwood area plan and is zoned GRST2, new base resort district. The GRST2 district allows both residential and commercial uses. Approval criterion B. So the next approval criterion. This has to do with streets, roads, transportation elements. The area master plan modification conforms to the Girdwood area plan and the official streets and highways plan. The application includes an updated trip generation summary completed by Kenny Engineering, which compared the current area master plan with the proposed modifications for new residential, commercial, and community use development on tracks A and B. The municipal traffic engineer and state DOT accepted the updated trip generation summary and do not recommend any changes. The municipal private development division that deals with road construction and drainage also do not recommend any changes to Arlberg Avenue. Approval criterion C. No adverse fiscal impacts are anticipated from the proposed modifications to the area master plan. The proposed increases in the number of housing units and commercial space are considered benefits to the community as a whole. The new housing will help Girdwood, which is experiencing housing scarcity. The resort is proposing a variety of housing types from small workforce housing units to single-family homes. The new commercial space will generate more commercial activity. The cost of any public improvements related to the development will be borne by the resort. Approval criterion D is met. Girdwood's likely to experience significant community benefits from the area master plan modifications. These include 25% more housing units and commercial space around the resort. Furthermore, the resort proposes the addition of the Little Bears Playhouse preschool and a new recreational center, including an aquatic center and a covered ice rink. The new preschool will help with the long waiting list for childcare in Girdwood. Also, Girdwood doesn't currently have publicly available fitness center, pool, or ice rink. Approval criterion E has to do with compatibility. Approval of these area master plan modifications is necessary for the development master plan. The area around the hotel is zoned GRST2 and intended for resort-style development. The development intensities are compatible with the surrounding area, which is all existing resort. There are no residential neighbors in the immediate vicinity. The nearest residential development is on Verbier Way, which is approximately 2,300 feet away. The expansion of Tract A proposed for single-family residential development is a low-intensity use. Short-term rentals will be prohibited with this application, and local residents will have first option to purchase a portion of these homes. The new neighborhood is designed to work with the recently adopted Girdwood Trails Plan for the proposed trails in the area. The resort proposes a public use ski hut near the Nordic ski trails. The aerial pulse gondola will help reduce traffic, vehicular traffic as well. Approval criterion F, a preliminary drainage analysis conducted by Triad Engineering is provided with this application. The private development division of the municipality will evaluate drainage as part of the master grading and drainage plan with the forthcoming land use permit application. Traffic engineering department, the municipal traffic engineer and DOT have no objections with any of the proposed development. Other public improvements, such as the extension of utilities, will be provided by the resort. The next section of the report has to do with a section of the Girdwood Code entitled, with the heading, Use Area and Use District Boundaries to be Established During the Master Plan Process. So the explanation here is, in Girdwood, there are some undeveloped areas of the community with undefined zoning district boundaries. The master plan process is the opportunity to refine these zoning boundaries. This application for area master plan modification describes 4 phases of development. In the 4th phase of development, Alyeska Resort intends to construct single-family homes in a community-use Nordic ski hut in the Tract A expansion area. The existing GRST 2 zoning boundary in the Tract A expansion area has an irregular shape and needs to be refined. The GRST zoning boundary in the Tract A expansion area is wavy. It's not based on any survey. In accordance with this section of code, Phase 4 Development Master Plan would have to refine the precise zoning boundary of the GRST 2 district. The boundary is required to create a more efficient, illogical land use pattern, and you cannot reduce the open space district. So it's not about gaining more resort development, losing any open space. That's not, that would be prohibited. Also, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviews all development master plans. So this all comes, each phase of development master plan comes before the commission in a public hearing. I think the last section of the staff report is the Phase 1 Development Master Plan, and the Planning Department finds that the approval criteria is met. In criterion A, the proposed Phase 1 Development Master Plan conforms to the principles of the 1995 Girdwood Area Plan. The architecture of the proposed buildings enhance the mountain resort character and blend well with Girdwood's natural environment. The site plan shows several new residential, commercial, mixed-use, and community-use buildings, as well as pedestrian connections between the buildings. The landscape plan improves the aesthetic quality of the buildings. It includes native plants such as spruce, birch, hemlock, alder, juniper, and fern. Let's see here. The development master plan shows new residential, mixed-use, commercial, and community-use buildings. On Tract A, Phase 1 will complete 80 hotel condominium units above 15,500 square feet of commercial space. The commercial space of the hotel will be expanded by 3,400 square feet. A 12,500 square foot conference center and a 9,500 square foot ski school base camp building will also be built. On Tract B, Phase 1 will construct 50 workforce housing units, 6,050 square feet of commercial space, 27,600 square feet of recreational, for the recreational center, and 27,600 square feet for the ice rink. And there'll be a 9,400 square foot preschool daycare. Approval criterion B, the development of Phase 1 will construct internal driveways that access Arlberg Avenue. Arlberg is a collector street. Criterion C, this is privately owned land. D, the proposed residential and mixed-use buildings will add a total of 130 housing units on tracks A and B. The housing units will be in the form of workforce housing and condo hotel units. Criterion E, the nearest residential areas are approximately a half mile from any of the proposed development. Criterion F, the site plan shows on-site traffic circulation and driveways onto Arlberg. Arlberg's built to municipal standard. Girdwood also has the Glacier Valley Transit. It's a free bus service with a bus stop on Track B. The last approval criterion is G. The Phase 1 Development Master Plan proposes 8 design alternatives that deviate from the specific standards, the Girdwood Code. The petitioner is requesting these design alternatives in accordance with the Development Master Plan procedure. And these design alternatives result in a high-quality development and an integrated site plan. The 8 design alternatives proposed by the resort are equivalent to or exceed the general applicable development standards. So in summation, the department recommends approval of the proposed modifications to the Alyeska Resort Area Master Plan subject to recording a notice of zoning action. This is on page 13 of the packet. And the department recommends approval of the Development Master Plan Phase 1 on tracks A and B, subject to conditions 1 through 3 on page 13 as well. That concludes my presentation, and, oh, I'm sorry. That's the first case. Turning now to the second case, which is the commercial tracks plat. This is really brief. So this is a request, so I'm turning in a packet G3. I guess the first thing to point out is that There is a Girdwood Board of Supervisors resolution dealing with this commercial tracts plat. And I'm holding it up over my head to show you what to look for. It's G3 Summary Packet 1. So what is this? This is a request for amendments to the commercial tract fragment lot site plan for Alyeska Resort. The purpose of this application is to update the fragment lot site plan to accommodate all of this new development. This allows commercial tracts, this section of code allows commercial tracts to divide into fragment lots in order to facilitate construction of commercial developments requiring multiple phases of construction. So it's like a finance tool. They can finance buildings separately with each phase of development or with each building. It's like a banking type of thing. That does conclude my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer questions. The applicant has also brought their design team to field questions as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Strike.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thank you for the presentation. On criterion E, you mentioned short-term rentals will be prohibited. How is that going to be codified, or how is that going to be enforced? What process will there be in place?
Thank you for the question. Could you direct that to the applicant?
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you for the presentation. My question relates to the comments we received from the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, and if I'm reading it correctly, it looks like there are some planned amendments or changes to the comprehensive plan that will include a change in the designation for at least some of this area that's currently listed as resort to open space. And I was wondering if you could speak briefly to your knowledge as to what that actual status is, and to what extent that changes kind of how you're thinking about the criteria here, and in particular, or maybe in addition, what effect that might have on future development phases. I see, for example, that the criteria for the development master planning does look to the plan, and when they get to phase 4, what effect that might have, that change in designation.
Through the chair, Mr. Gardner, thank you for the question. So the second part of your question says, how does any proposed changes to the Girdwood area plans, land use plan map, how would that affect, this development? So if the area master plan modifications are approved tonight, then that will be the guiding, that would be the guiding document for a development going forward. The commission, as I said, will review each phase of the development master plan and could take that into account, and the latest version, the Girdwood area plan, because all of this, the area master plan, I think they're proposing about 10 or 15 years to build it out, But the first part of your question, does that make sense? The second part?
I think so, yes. In other words, that whatever we would, if this is approved this evening, the area master plan, that would effectively be the primary guiding document over the land use plan map, to the extent that there's a discrepancy between the two of them.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then the first part of your question was, I think there's a pretty simple answer to that. So the first was question is, where is the proposed changes to the Girdwood area plan, where's that at? Application has been made for adoption of, an update to the Girdwood area plan. That is being processed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It'll be coming before the Planning and Zoning Commission. That is the proposed Girdwood area plan. It hasn't been reviewed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission hasn't made a recommendation on that to the Assembly. The next step would be for it to go before the Assembly for adoption. So it has been submitted, but it hasn't received the first of 2 required public hearings. I can't speculate on if it'll be approved in the form that it was submitted, or if changes will be made, or if it'll be adopted at all, or any of that. The other thing I would say is that, since 1995 and our current Girdwood area plan is the adopted policy of the municipality. That is current, and that's been that way for many years. Also, even if the update to the Girdwood area plan were to be adopted in its current form, showing the conversion of the resort designation to open space, if that were to all be adopted that way, the existing zoning is still GRST2, and it takes a rezone to change it to a different zoning district. So while if the plan were to change the resort designation to open space, the zoning governs. It's still GRST2. That's the zoning district, and the regulations, the law that it follows, or the code that it follows, is the existing zoning map. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pulis.
I'm just a little murky on the phasing. So I've heard phase 1 and phase 4. Did I miss a phasing map or anything in there? Is that on a certain page? And I'm asking because I'm wondering at what phase is it Meadow Creek is proposed to be in? I think I heard it was phase 4, but we're only approving phase 1. So I'm all over the board.
Yeah. Thank you through the chair, Mr. Pulis. Thank you for the question. Page 22 of your packet. Shows a summary of the different phases of development. So just so that we're all on the same page, and because I've been talking for quite a while, you have the GRST2 district requires you to have an area master plan first, and that's sort of like your big picture, and then prior to development, you have to have a development master plan. So with this application, Alyeska Resort is proposing, to update the Alyeska Resort area master plan, the area master plan, and they are proposing, they're asking for your approval of phase 1 development master plan. They'll have to come back with, development master plan for each additional phase. They just haven't designed all those buildings out to the detail that they could bring before you right now. And the phase 4 is that expansion area towards Glacier Creek.
So we wouldn't be approving like the actual site plan for that today?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Okay, we will invite the commissioner up. You will receive 20 minutes.
Okay, check. Hello, my name is Willem Laurie, and I am the development manager for Alyeska Resort and Pomeroy Lodging. So thank you to the commission and the planning and zoning staff assigned to this case. Really appreciate it's a large package, so thank you for reviewing it. Also, thank you to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors for working with us through this and reviewing it as well, and their general support for the project. I have a short presentation for you tonight, but hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A after. we are requesting a modification to the Alyeska Resort Area Master Plan and the Development Master Plan for Phase 1 of that development. Also revisions to the commercial tract plat associated with the development. So this process started during COVID-19, and it was really due to everyone's ability to work remotely. If you had the option to work in Girdwood versus an urban city, I think a lot of people would choose Girdwood because of the trails, recreation, the mountain. So we wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. And we started looking at the previous area master plan that was completed. We engaged SE Group, who completed that previous plan, and started the whole process with them again. So that is the current Alyeska area master plan. And just for reference, that is the hotel right there, and the pond, and day lodge section over here. But essentially what we did with SE Group was, look at what was lacking in this area master plan. There's a lot of great aspects to it, but there's a lot of issues in Girdwood regarding topography, wetlands, avalanche risk. There's tons of things to consider. On top of that, we wanted to create some community amenities to improve the area master plan within this, which weren't proposed in this. So we identified 3 areas that were most feasible for development. And again, that is the resort right there. That would be the new Nordic Spa. So this is tract A. This is tract B, current overflow parking. And this is that tract I section, which we're proposing as an expanded area to tract A. And arguably, these are some of the most developable lands within Girdwood right now. So throughout this process as well, as much as this was a benefit to the resort, we also realized we could immensely benefit the community of Girdwood by including a lot of those amenities. And we started to engage with the community, individuals, groups, councils. There's a lot of groups in Girdwood, and we talked to a lot of people about this, and that was to establish what was really needed there. So we established these Alyeska development objectives that pretty well guided our development. And a lot of these are similar to what you might see in a comp plan: more housing, more commercial space, community amenities, workforce housing, and being a resort community, increasing the amount of trails within the area. But these really guided our development. So after working through this general plan with SE Group, we brought on Skylab Architecture to really get in the weeds on planning, get to that area master plan, new area master plan, as well as a development master plan, which just requires more design. And we've come up with this site plan here. So I'll go in more detail on all of these development areas, but essentially you're looking at the hotel right here. So this would be tract A, this is tract B, and that is the expanded Glacier Creek Village. So this is Alyeska Village, and this is Moose Meadows Village, but they're all connected in one way through trails, through roads, through paths. So looking at the Alyeska Village area, essentially what you're looking at here is a pedestrian-oriented village, similar to what you might see in lower 48 ski villages or Canadian ski villages. Most of this is focused on a pedestrian walkway through this section, and then these larger buildings are condos with ground floor retail. This is the conference center here, a modest hotel extension, and then the base camp building, which will house our new ski school. And then to this upper area and north of the development will be new parking areas, and that will be to replace what's being taken on the current overflow parking. On track B, this is really meant to be a community-oriented area. These are the existing staff housing buildings, just for reference, and that is the chapel. But these buildings within this section, so the larger buildings and these smaller ones, are all workforce housing, and not just for resort employees, but also for businesses of Girdwood. On top of that, as we were going through this process and research, there's going to be kind of a diverse array of units within this, because what we realized is, although the summer or winter lifty wants to come in for one season, families also want to move to Girdwood. So you'll get everything from a dorm style up to a townhome, and that's in an effort to bring up people who want to come up here with a family, a spouse, a dog. Offering all those units really allows us to attract great labor up to Girdwood. On top of that, in this area, we have the Little Bears daycare over in this section, and then this large building over here would be the covered ice rink and aquatic center and fitness center. And we've signed an LOI with a very reputable 501c3 to be the operator and partner on this project for us. Hopefully we can announce that soon. Also within these kind of more dense buildings here, there will be ground floor retail as well. The last section is this Glacier Creek Village, which I just wanted to provide a little bit more context to. So within the land use map, this area was defined as GRST2 resort use. And per the code that Francis was talking about, we're allowed to define those lines through the development master plan process, and that's with consideration of things like topography, wetlands, streams. So as you can see, there are wetlands to the south here, wetlands to the north. You have quite a bit of topo on this edge part here, but overall, like, this general site is quite flat moving up to the upper parts of the valley. And then also you want to consider trails. So you have a trail that essentially hugs the bluff of Glacier Creek there, as well as Stumpy's Trail, which goes through this section of wetlands. So what we designed with our architects and what we considered with the newly adopted trails plan, especially with the current proposed trail, was to change the area of this, essentially a blob, and let it be defined by the topo, by the trails, and all the considerations to be made. And what we've done here is essentially create a squiggle. And so this would be that existing trail in the upper valley. This is the one that crosses. And then this is the proposed forest loop through the Girdwood Trails plan. And what we landed on with this area is essentially a lower density, trails-oriented community. And what you see down in this area are essentially smaller cluster homes. So if you're familiar with the Cordova and 11th development in Anchorage, essentially smaller homes, tiny homes, we're calling them attainable housing, but something that's not currently available in Girdwood. And we're looking to establish a program. It's occurred a lot in different resort towns, but something that would allow for people who have lived there, worked there for so long, and been priced out of the market an opportunity for priority buying. It's been successfully done in a lot of places in the lower 48 in Canada, and we're proposing something of that program here as well. And then as you move into the upper valley, you'd be looking at more conventional single-family homes. This is the small Nordic ski facility and additional parking area. And this line here that you see would essentially be the pulse gondola lift. So that's a horizontal gondola that would connect this area back to the Alyeska Village, essentially making this whole area ski in, ski out, becoming very common in urban areas to reduce the need for cars and increase connectivity. So if you're in Alyeska Village and you want to get to the Nordic ski trails, hop on that, and vice versa if you want to go skiing at Alyeska. This is a general, and sorry, just to actually touch on the question that was asked there. We plan to manage the HOA of this and restrict Airbnbs or short-term rentals just in this neighborhood. So that's in an effort to just increase the probability that people are actually living in these units. And we could also do that through restrictive covenants, but that's strictly in the Glacier Creek Village area. And then this is a general phasing plan. So this would actually encompass our first development master plan. It would essentially be condo 1, the conference center, this small extension in the ski school building, and then also the expanded parking area. And then on this side, the first phase of workforce housing, the daycare and the rec center, and the associated infrastructure with the ski village. And then as you move, you kind of build out another condo building, additional workforce housing, and lastly, the final condo building and the last phase of workforce housing. And then after that would be the fourth phase, Glacier Creek. And then this is essentially the development master plan. So what I just discussed, that first phase, really what you're looking at here. And here's some renderings. So this would be condo 1 with the ground floor retail, conference center, base camp ski school, and hotel extension. And that's the tram in the back with the resort. This would be coming from the parking lot, going right beside condo 1 there. This is the new conference center, and this is really in an effort to attract larger and more consistent events to Girdwood, because it's the first hotel we've ever encountered that had a lack of conference space. And this is another view of condo 1, so this would be looking out into the valley. And this looks toward the tramway with the base camp building on the left and hotel extension on the right. And then this is the Moose Meadows Track B area. So this is the first phase of workforce housing. You can see the ground floor retail in this spot and the rec center in the back here. This is, again, that workforce housing from another view. And this is the covered open-air ice rink. Again, it rains a lot in Girdwood, get a lot of inclement weather there, so providing both a winter and summer opportunity for covered recreation bodes very well. There's also the window that would go into the rec center in the back there and the pool, and there'd essentially be locker rooms for the ice rink in the lower level. And then a view of Little Bear's facility, the new daycare with the rec center and workforce housing in the back, and that is the mountain. And then on the less exciting side of things, the revisions to the commercial track plat. So this is what the frag lot plan currently looks like. And this is what we're proposing, and that's just to accommodate the development in the sites that we've currently defined. So, yeah, this, we've put a lot of planning into this. We think this is a really great development. We've really been listening to Girdwood and what they've been asking for over the years. And I think that really shows in this development. It shows what Girdwood needs in terms of housing, amenities, commercial space. And yeah, we're very excited to get started. So thank you for the consideration, and I'd like to leave the rest of the time for rebuttal or a Q&A.
Question from Commissioner Strike.
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you for your presentation. Occupancy in the hotel, higher in the winter, lower in the summer, vice versa, pretty steady?
I would say I won't speak for, I'm not the hotel manager, but from my general understanding of the resort, which I'm not heavily involved in the occupancy of the hotel, we're more occupied during cruise ship season. Yep. But it is, especially with all the snow we've been getting this year in comparison to the lower 48, which we hope will continue, it was quite high during the winter as well.
And that's been my experience. Cruise ship season, summertime, you're packed, you can't get in. Wintertime, weekends, 3-day weekends, so, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, typically busy. And so my concern is, as we develop this new housing area, that the resort owns this housing until then it's sold as condos and so forth. The predecessor company that ran this resort, they came forth and presented a plan that incorporated timeshare. And they were going to take their condos that they were going to be building, and they had an area, and they were going to put a timeshare, which of course is short-term rentals, 1 week at a time, et cetera. So I'm just trying to ascertain that these units that you're building will not be used by the hotel for overflow opportunities?
Great question. So there are 78 units proposed in that first phase. So roughly 60 of those units will be condo hotels. So they'll be restricted in a way that when they're not being used by the owners, they will fall into the stock of the hotel rooms. And there's a couple different models. I mean, it's very common in every resort market, condo hotels. If you look at Whistler, for instance, they actually have two different types of condo hotels, which one allows for unlimited use by an owner. One restricts you to 28 days during the winter, 28 days during the summer. Otherwise, it falls into the hotel stock. So we plan on making a majority of units within the condo buildings, condo hotels, versus strict condos, which means we would be able to add additional room stock when we most need it.
So 60 out of, what was the number, 70?
78. roughly that amount. It's not, required that we
Okay.
define it at this point, but that's the
Six
current
out-
idea.
Six out of eight, more than three-quarters of the new space that's going out there to the community is really taken up by the hotel, which in its very intent is to control those units, especially in the summertime if you're building a new convention center to attract more people.
Yeah.
When, in a season that you're already full. I'm trying to ascertain, yes, a community benefit, but are we seeing that much of a community benefit if the hotel, the resort is commandeering, so to speak, this much?
Well, the 43 units that are located on Tract B, workforce housing, would be strictly workforce housing, which would be for Girdwood businesses. That can go to anyone from working at the school to working at the daycare, to working at the new recreation center, to your cook at Jack Sprat or at any restaurant in town. So, and what we proposed in the area master plan amendment is 180 workforce housing units within that throughout the 3 phases. So just, as the condos get built, there's also a phase of workforce housing that's getting built, and there's a benefit to tourism, creating more rooms, creating condo units, both condo, hotel, as an investment opportunity, and then strict condo as a housing opportunity. But then also on the other side with that phase 1, we're building out workforce housing units, and that continues in every phase. And then also the first phase will include that Little Bears daycare, which is desperately needed in Girdwood. And then the rec center, because the only pool or fitness center that has been used since the hotel's construction, that is the fitness center currently, which needs to accommodate Girdwood and the larger population that comes in there during the winter and the summer, and also an ice rink would just be great as well.
But again, that workforce housing, that isn't codified, it is still owned and controlled by the resort, and you control who will occupy the workplace housing.
Correct.
You'll be the landlord.
Yes.
So will that be protected by covenant, by the homeowners association that you referred to earlier concerning the no short-term rentals? How will that be controlled?
We will control those as rental units, just as we do our 95 current staff housing units. Us as the resort, we could fill those 43 units right now if we wanted to. But there is a greater need for workforce housing in Girdwood that's been established through so many. Girdwood literally established the Girdwood Housing and Economic Committee to go after this problem, and we're trying to get ahead of this because benefits to Girdwood also benefit the resort, and we just wanted to do this. But we plan on maintaining those as rental units in perpetuity, and we will work directly with the businesses that need those units for their staff.
And that's what I wanted to hear, you go on the record for that stipulation, because if something changes down the road, we can come back to this testimony.
Sure.
Or the public can come back to this testimony at that
Sure.
point. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Commissioner Krishna.
Sure, I have a two-part question, but the first part is if you could provide a little bit more information about any terms for that rental housing. I know, I think you had either stated or we had seen it in our packet that they'd be prioritizing current Girdwood residents. Could you speak about any stipulations you'd have on that rental housing and how, if you've determined any, rental figures or things like that? I'm also curious about more specificity on the condo hotel. You had mentioned a couple of models. I wonder if you've settled on one for the limitations on the occupancy.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We have not settled on the model yet. We're still working on that. In terms of the workforce housing, you're referring to the Tract B or the Glacier Creek I know you talked about the priority units.
More information on any of the workforce housing would be helpful.
Yeah. Those, just to echo what I said to Commissioner Strike, we plan on working directly with Girdwood businesses to rent the rental units directly to those businesses. And in terms of pricing right now, we've said this in the other, in the Girdwood Board of Supervisors meetings, as well as when I presented to the Girdwood Housing and Economic Committee. These will likely be some of the most, if not the most affordable rental units in Girdwood. It's tough to tell. We're still, a year out from, let's say, construction start, and then 2.5 years from that first phase really finishing. So the associated construction cost, financing associated with that as well, will essentially dictate that. But based on our current modeling, we would likely see those being the most affordable units, but I can't make a promise on what that'll be.
Just one more question about the Glacier Creek site and regarding the Girdwood Board of Supervisors letter. Could you tell us if Glacier Creek were to be open space instead of a developable, how would that affect the housing unit numbers?
We would have to, this whole plan, all 4 phases were essentially underwritten as one project. It works as one project because, there's this immense, there's a lot of public benefit. Workforce housing isn't the largest money maker. Neither is donating land that we could have built condos on to build community amenities. There's a lot of upfront costs, sunk costs within those first few phases. So a lot of what is realized in terms of financial benefit doesn't come until the later phases. So we haven't dealt with what the alternative would be if Glacier Creek wasn't approved, but it would change things. Thank you.
I had a question, I think kind of regarding the Glacier Creek and the selling to residents only. Can you explain how that would work? Because I've heard this idea talked about before and seems to somewhat conflict with some of the fair housing rules the federal government has. So I was just curious a little bit more about how that works.
Yeah, and it's very common in resort markets because resort markets often have this case that Girdwood has, and that is extreme housing prices and a lot of people who have been priced out of the market. It's common everywhere. Just about every established resort market has a public-private partnership that establishes this opportunity for people who qualify for a program to be given the opportunity for priority purchasing within this program, and that could be an allotted amount of units within that development. So that is the plan, and essentially this could act as a lottery system when you qualify for the program. That is the furthest phase out. That is, in best case scenario, roughly 5 to 7 years out from starting construction. So we haven't obviously established that. There would be a lot of legal hoops to jump through. But we are a luxury resort in a very remote town. We're good at figuring things out. We have a lot of time to do it as well, and there's a lot of precedent from other resort towns in the lower 48 and in Canada to set a program like this. We want people who have been living there to be able to have the opportunity to buy, and I think it's very supported by a lot of people who have essentially been priced out of the market or who do not have housing stability because their rentals become short-term rentals. So yeah, there's a long process to go through for that, but we have a lot of time to plan it.
Commissioner Strike.
I would just remind you, you also have a lot of folks that work there that don't live there because they commute, because they can't find a place to live.
Correct.
Yet you're designating a residency in that Girdwood community as a priority. So you're disenfranchising anybody who commutes.
Well, we haven't, sorry.
I know you haven't figured it out,
yeah.
but I'm just saying there's a couple sides of this that create the possible legal entanglement you had that I believe the commissioner here was pointing to. But please think about the folks that commute that want to live there but can't.
Absolutely. And I think, again, a lot to figure out there. But if you've been working for a business in Girdwood for 10 years and have been priced out of the market, and therefore you have to live in Whittier or Anchorage, if you've been an employee at a business in Girdwood, it's not to say that's the establishment of the program, but I could see that as a way that works.
Okay, I see no further questions. You have 7 minutes for rebuttal. You can wait till, we'll do public testimony first.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we will open this hearing to public testimony. Anybody wishing to speak on this matter, please step forward. State your name for the record. And please let us know if you're speaking on behalf of a group or as an individual.
Good evening. I'm Joan Lauer. I live in Girdwood, and I am the president of the board of Little Bears Playhouse Preschool and Early Learning Center. Pomeroy Lodging has generously offered Little Bears a 99-year land lease for $1 a year for a 1-acre frag lot where we will build our new child care center. Our nonprofit organization is very grateful for the opportunity to build a safer, larger building, which will have ample capacity to meet the child care needs of the Girdwood workforce. As you have seen in Willem's presentation, our lot is close to the 2 current Alyeska Resort employee housing buildings and Our Lady of the Snows Chapel. Please approve the modifications to the Alyeska Resort Area Master Plan and the request for the Alyeska Resort Development Master Plan. And in particular, please at least approve the Moose Meadows development so that the Girdwood Workforce Child Care Project can proceed on schedule to build this much-needed community asset. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no questions. Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak, please step forward.
Good evening. My name is Brian Burnett, and I appreciate being able to address this commission today as an engaged community member. I'm speaking as an individual today. I have long-standing roots in Girdwood. I've been involved in Girdwood Trails Committee, Girdwood Nordic Ski Club, Land Use Committee, and lately as the newest member of Girdwood Board of Supervisors. I'm here today to speak in support of 2 of the 3 developments detailed in the master plan presented today. Both Alyeska Village and Moose Meadows projects are on land Pomeroy owns outright and are entirely consistent with current and future community planning documents. However, the proposed development in public land, HLB land, north of the Girdwood Airport will conflict with the new Girdwood Comprehensive Plan. Public land should be used for public good. This parcel of land has been identified by the community to be designated as open space. This 3rd phase of development, Glacier Creek Village, conflicts with Glacier Creek Village in Expansion Area A, conflicts with the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan. The current Municipality of Anchorage Comprehensive Plan has 4 top-tier elements, as you guys all know, as this commission all knows, excuse me. The 1995 Girdwood Area Plan is the oldest of these 4 documents. In 2017, the Girdwood Board of Supervisors formed the Area Plan Update Committee to get the process going. Most recently, Imagine Girdwood was formed to complete the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan. Imagine Girdwood executed extensive community engagement, including 4 community-wide town halls to seek feedback and inform public, presenting updates at local community meetings and holding over 50 publicly noticed regular monthly meetings. Imagine Girdwood published a revised draft on April 24th, 2024. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors resolved that the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan revised draft reflects extensive community engagement and supported the submission of the plan as a substantial amendment to the Municipality of Anchorage Comprehensive Plan by a vote of 4-0 and a subsequent recommendation of support from the Girdwood Land Community by a vote of 27-0. This draft of the Girdwood Community Plan, Comprehensive Plan, which is 2024-0074, is currently being viewed by Planning and Zoning staff and will be in line for consideration by the Commission July 15th. Given the conflict between the Glacier Creek Village and the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan, I respectfully request that this commission withholds approval of Glacier Creek Village. As a resident of Girdwood, I thank you for your time.
I have a question from Commissioner Krishna.
Just a clarification, was your testimony on behalf of the Girdwood Board of Supervisors or as an individual?
No, ma'am, I hope I was clear that I was as an engaged community member.
All right, thank you. While the chair logs back in, I'll maybe just ask another question. Could you provide a little bit more information about why that site was designated as open space in the plan draft, which this commission has not seen?
As the Girdwood Community Plan as the comprehensive plan went forward, the community was presented with two maps that detailed the valley. One of the maps had that land north of the airport designated as open space. Another had it designated as mixed use. The community voted for open space north of the airport.
Did you reach out to can you just tell us a little bit about this comprehensive plan? Were you part of the new comprehensive plan process?
There was probably about 400 of us in Girdwood that were involved in the comprehensive plan. I attended Imagine Girdwood meetings. I did not sit as an officer on Imagine Girdwood.
And I guess I'm just kind of wondering at what point, or what was the reasoning behind taking space that's zone GS2, GST2 or whatever it is, and then changing it to open space and the...
Some of it had to do with the Heritage Land Bank commissioned a group back in 2007 to explore recreational possibilities in the upper valley of Girdwood, and we started developing trails plans up in that part, and that's how the 5K loop was built. Additional trails have been proposed in that land since 2013, and I know that the Girdwood Nordic Ski Club has spent considerable money designing trails for that particular part of land. And trails have been approved in the trails plan. Mr. Lowry pointed out the trails that have been approved in the trails plan, which is part of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. I see no further questions. Anybody else wishing to speak, please step forward.
Hi. My name is Mike. My name is Mike Edgington. I'm co-chair of GBOS and also chair of the Imagine Girdwood group. And I've been involved in these processes for quite a long while. I can probably answer many of your questions. I'm not speaking on behalf of GBOS.
As an individual?
I will speak. 6 minutes is enough for me, so I'll speak as an individual. Probably more than enough. So first of all, I'd like to say that there are many items here. In general, I'm in agreement with the recommendations and the style of development in this plan, in the area master plan and the development master plan. There are a couple of questions that come up, but before then, I just want to deal with the positives. The housing goals overall for the project, I think, are very welcome. They do follow a lot of the needs of Girdwood. The needs of Girdwood isn't just housing, it's occupied housing. We've had a lot of housing built recently at a higher rate actually than the municipality as a whole, higher rate even than Matsu Valley. And almost all of those housing units have been purchased by people who are not residents in the valley. They're either second homes or run as full-time Airbnbs. I think approximately 1 out of the last 18 multifamily developments is actually occupied. So I appreciate the goals, and later if there are questions I can address how other resort communities at least address the questions about fair housing. So overall it's good. I also support the design variants the design variations which are described in the development master plan. There are two issues though. One is a small issue. In the area master plan, there's discussion about the traffic analysis, and I think there's I wouldn't say disingenuous, but there's a slightly misleading statement in there that it represents a net reduction in traffic. That is true compared to a plan which was never implemented and probably was never going to be implemented. The actual numbers show an increase of about 800 vehicles an hour during peak use, and not the 75 reduction it implies. So that's probably more than a doubling of traffic. I still think that's within the capacity of the roads, but it is quite a significant increase. From a perspective of somebody who's been working on the long-term plan for Girdwood for many years, it's understandable, a little disappointing to see so much housing and commercial development to the extreme end of the valley. This is something that really many of these facilities should be in the middle of the valley. There are a number of reasons why that hasn't happened. I think it's welcome overall. There may have been better alternatives in the past, however, this is still okay. I was hoping we would hear a little bit more about the recreation center. As the representative from Little Bears said earlier, Little Bears is privately funded, the development is privately funded, while the land has been donated effectively, or a lease has been donated at low cost. All the development costs and the construction is being funded privately. The same is going to happen for the recreation center. We've been told for a while that we would hear who the partner was. It's we have to kind of, as a board being responsible, we can look at the pictures and listen to the promises, but we also have to sort of take a judgment of whether it's realistic and whether it's likely to happen. Maybe in rebuttal we will hear that the partner for the recreation center has been chosen. Now let's go on to the issues around the comprehensive plan and the Glacier Creek development. Comprehensive plan, what the Girdwood area plan that has been discussed, was adopted in 1995, so almost 30 years ago. What I heard from the planning staff member earlier is that approval of the area master plan tonight will effectively lock in that 1995 plan. That's not my reading of code. There's a section which, I think it's 21.09.030E5, which describes the effect of an area master plan, and that still says that it's subject to agreement with other plans, other adopted plans. So when it comes to future actions in phase 4, I do believe there will still be a conflict that has to be resolved. However, if the description of planning staff runs, I believe, is correct, then what approval tonight will do is lock in decisions made 30 years ago for at least the next 10 years. I see a data between 2032 and 2035 for phase 4. So if that interpretation is correct, and a decision to approve the area master plan means that the 95 plan is taken, even though it will have been superseded by a future date, then effectively the developments in the next 8 or 10 years from now will be dependent on a plan that's 40 years old, and ignoring the dozen or so years of work on other plans in the meantime. So just briefly, Girdwood Comprehensive Plan, we started in 2017. It started at full speed in 2019. There's been a very wide community engagement. I believe Brian said 400 people. We calculated over 900 people have been involved in total, including a survey, which is approximately half the population of our community. That's actively involved. The resort has been very involved in this as well. They are very aware of the changes that were proposed. The details of the land use map were discussed over a year ago and have come up through multiple revisions. We're now in a situation where the proposal is being tied to the 95 plan, and you're literally going to be having a public hearing in less than 50 days on a replacement that we've been working on for 7 or 8 years, and this particular part of it's been very public for over a year. So the result, we're aware of these changes. The timing is perhaps very coincidental, that it's just a few weeks before the hearing on the comprehensive plan update. In my comments, I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Commissioner Krishna has a question.
I suppose I'll ask the question that we directed to the previous testifier, which was, since we haven't seen the plan yet, could you tell us a little bit about why, is it as you stated, some of the trails. Could you tell us a little bit more about why Glacier Creek was designated open space and what the process was that took the plan to that conclusion?
Happy to. There's more history than just the last year or two on this. That particular area, first of all, the 1995 plan expected a very large resort development. The community to be approximately 3 times the size it is now, and the resort to be, at least 3 times the size it is now. And a lot of the planning and land use designations were along those lines. So a lot of land was allocated to future resort development, which just has not happened. So part of the process of rewriting the plan is to, rather than look at the expectations from 30 years ago, to actually be realistic about what the situation is today and what the situation is likely to be in the future. So that's one of the reasons there's some changes in land use. The particular area that's currently zoned GRST2, that the Glacier Creek Village is planned for, was subject to a very, I'd say, contentious and detailed discussions about some potential trail development about 6 years ago. And the arguments basically came down to how large trails should be, how much they should affect the natural environment, as to whether they should be extremely small trails or 4 or 8 feet wide trails. At no point was the community was arguing about the size of the trails there. There was no support whatsoever for large housing development in that area. So this has been going on for about 6 or 7 years, this general argument. Specifically when it comes to the way that the land use maps were developed, we had a workshop over a year ago in April last year, a community-wide workshop, where we went through the process of a land use mapping. And many groups came up with general ideas, and everyone was presented with a map. They were made aware of the existing maps, and they were presented with some potential maps, and people went through the process of allocating land use and saying how they wanted land use. There was most of the proposals that came out of that were to expand the amount of open space in that area. We then had 2 specific proposals, draft proposals, which came out last October. There was extensive public comment. I think we got many hundreds of public comments on those draft maps. They were then fed into the final draft map, which was released in February, and we then had another 200 or so, 150 public comments on those maps. And that resulted in the final draft and the submission, which is in front of Planning and Zoning for a public hearing in 5-6 weeks. So there's been very widespread public involvement in this process. And mostly it's because, again, it's an area which already has a lot of recreational use and is seen as an area which has sort of intrinsic value in its natural state.
I suppose I might just ask a follow-up, which is this seems to be a place where 2 of Girdwood's top priorities might be in conflict, right? I think.
I agree.
I suppose I won't ask you to, we do have written comments here from GBOS, and you've outlined the process which it took to arrive at those decisions, so I won't ask you to, speak off the cuff about them, but I think I'll point out that, I would wonder if GBOS has had any conversations about whether, if 30 units or 50 units or something were to be reduced through this change in designation to open space. Is that something that would, create other issues, right? Or would contravene other goals of the plan? So I suppose I'll just ask if you have any opinions about that, because what we have here in front of us is obviously something that the community has asked for in many ways as well, which is workforce housing.
Indeed. So, I have many opinions, and there was quite a robust debate about this particular issue as to whether the promise of housing of the style we would like, should supersede the extensive community engagement in how we want land use to go in the future. I guess one of my thoughts is there's an absolute necessity for attainable housing within the community, and that's true for to maintain a healthy and thriving community. It's also true for employers. It's absolutely from a purely cynical point of view, if the resort was only interested in itself and nothing else, and I don't believe that's the case, but if it was, they also have a need for housing as well. There's other land which the resort owns. It may not be quite as easy to develop as that, but that is not land they currently own. This is speculative. It's land which is currently public. So there are many steps which would have to be done before they could get to a point of actually doing this development. So I would just say that, given the fact that there are these two things happening more or less simultaneously, especially given a 30 or 40-year time scale, I think a 6 weeks is not an unreasonable request if the body were to do so, to perhaps delay the discussion until you've actually had a chance to look at both issues.
Thank you.
Commissioner George has a question for.
Good evening, Mr. Edgington. Thank you for being here before us.
Mr. George.
You have quite a lengthy history with the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, working on the Trails Plan, which this body adopted just a few months ago. I'm referencing back to the petitioner's presentation that was on PowerPoint for everyone earlier, and I'm looking at the Glacier Creek proposed development that has some trails within it.
Yes.
And given your familiarity with the Trails Plan and the process that has been undertaken for the Girdwood Master Plan, which is coming forward, that we have not yet had the chance to review, staff's not had the chance to provide analysis to us. From my perspective, I see trails and housing in this, what is brought before us. Can you, I don't really know how to ask the question, but since there are trails that are proposed to be incorporated into this development, how do they comport with the proposed trails that have already been put forward by the community? Are they significantly reduced? Are they somewhat similar? Do you think that they would be perhaps adequate for this area? Is it possible to have two uses in this large tract? Your perspective, I think, would be very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. I'm sorry, apologize. I'll move it up a little. I'm not sure. I think there are two schools of thought here, but I think the prevailing thought, the prevailing opinion I have heard throughout the community is that the trails in that particular area are relatively close to the occupied areas of the valley, but have a undisturbed quality. It really is like being in sort of almost wilderness. You're not aware, apart from the occasional aircraft, you're not really aware of the fact you're close to development at all. And that quality would definitely be changed by this plan. Now, I think the fact that there is some Nordic Trail and some trails included in the plan, I think, is admirable. I think in general, the opinion would be that it would change the character of that area very significantly. And I think, again, in general, I think that would not generally comport with what the community would like for that area, given that it is one of the few areas within a short distance of the main housing and occupied area that sort of has that quality to it. And again, there are other areas, and there are other areas of land that both the resort currently own or could potentially acquire, and this is not currently resort land, this is not private land, this is public land. So I think those things together imply that it would be very difficult to sort of have both uses running simultaneously. And of course, I think the other problem is as the plan has it at the moment, there is an area of fairly high density, low cost housing, and then there's an area of, I think, 3/4 of an acre to an acre housing throughout the majority of that area. I believe much of which is not intended to be on sewer, so it'll probably be septic systems and therefore large lots and low density housing. And weirdly, I think the community in general would support that lower density housing less than it would support higher density housing, even though there is this inherent conflict. But also the lower density housing is literally in a smaller area. The higher density housing is in a smaller physical area. But I think I'd go back to Commissioner Krishnan's point. There is fundamentally a tension between two things the community wants. And I think that it is a fair question to ask of, is this the only place in this area of land, which I said is not currently owned by the resort, but is publicly owned, is that the only place where this can be done? Because if the need is as great as everybody says, including the resort, there are other options.
See no further questions. Anybody else wishing to speak on this matter, please step forward, state your name, and if you're speaking on behalf of a group or yourself.
Hi, good evening. I'll be speaking on behalf of myself. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Crystal Hoke, and I'm here to testify as a parent and resident of Girdwood. I would like to cover a little bit of information about the history of Little Bear's Playhouse, the existing building, and the massive appreciation we have to Pomeroy Lodging for providing a building site within the Moose Meadows subdivision, which is part of Phase 1. To give you some history, the current building utilized by Little Bears was built in the 1960s by volunteers of the Girdwood Community Club. This building was used for a variety of social activities and meetings. In the 1970s, when the municipality unified, the building became the property of the municipality. In 1982, Little Bears Playhouse started operating their childcare operations. This year marks 42 years operating out of the existing building. The need for a new site for Little Bears was identified in the 1995 Girdwood Area Plan. It was again mentioned in the Southtown Site Master Plan in 2008. It was again noted within the 2014 Master Plan update. In 2011, there was an attempt to condemn the building. When it was realized there was no other place for our community's children to receive care, an agreement was reached to shovel the roof after 3 inches of snow to avoid roof collapse. Parents are required to sign a waiver regarding the roof to attend. I can speak with firsthand direct information that other sites were reviewed and explored. For instance, Girdwood Southtown site, due to Title 21 requirements and plat notes, this area, without substantial variances, would require a $5 million road to be built prior to starting a building pad. These constraints made the site virtually financially impossible. There is also active shifting of California Creek, which is at a higher elevation and causing water to flow within the areas of Southtown site. This flooding issue and concern was essentially the final reason the site was abandoned as an option for Little Bears. Pomeroy has always been very open to helping Little Bears Playhouse. Initially, they had offered a site on Track C, which we would have needed to build our own bus turnaround, but ran into bedrock while digging test holes. It was estimated that our site improvement would cost $1.5 million for that site. At last, we were offered a site within the Moose Meadows subdivision on Tract B. Most of the site is flat, and 3/4 of it is gravel. This site is a huge step forward to building this deeply needed community asset, and my appreciation cannot be overstated. I am so thankful to be included in the Resorts Master Plan amendments and really see the value this development is bringing to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak, please step forward.
Yes, thank you. I'm Scott Thomas. I'm with Kinney Engineering, and I'm working with William Pomeroy. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate Mr. Edgington pointing
Excuse me.
Okay.
You're part of the petitioners group.
Oh, yeah.
So you can speak in the rebuttal time.
Oh, okay. I'll do that, yes.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Lee Ellis, and I'm a resident of Girdwood. I have been before this board, I have been before the assembly, and I have been arguing for affordable housing in this community for a long time. Just like my neighbors, I am certainly always concerned about impacts on our recreation. I am concerned about development in the valley, traffic, and all these kind of things. But we have been imploring this city to help us with affordable housing for a long time. And I feel like the resort has finally listened. Now, there are things that I don't love, there are things I do love, but currently in Girdwood, they just did a homeless count this last winter, and we had 46 individuals, if I remember that number correctly, who are homeless. By a per capita basis, Girdwood has more homeless than Anchorage, which is hard to believe. We have got to address workforce housing, and every development we have seen go into this community has not addressed it. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to build recreation for our families. This is an opportunity to provide daycare. This is an opportunity to provide housing for people who want to make a home in Girdwood. And again, I love the area that they are proposing for the fourth phase. I love skiing out there. My dogs love skiing out there, and it would be an absolute heartbreak to see that area go away. But it's a lot harder to drive past a parking lot full of people who are living in cars every day, and that has got to matter, and we've got to do something about that. I absolutely believe that this resort, seeing the concern about recreational opportunities and trails, will work with us to develop more trails in that valley because they're going to bring more people in the valley and they're going to want more places to cross-country ski and ski jor and do all those wonderful things. This group has worked with this community like nobody else has ever done in the past. And I think that requires a lot of respect from this community. And I have not seen that before in my 12 years of living in Girdwood. So I am very supportive of this project. Again, I really look forward to our members of GBOS working and making sure that this project makes sense for our community. I look forward to finding new transportation options so that we can alleviate any traffic concerns, but these are not problems we cannot overcome. Housing has to come, and it has to come now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify, please step forward. Last call.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tyler Schmidt. I'm a full-time resident in Girdwood. I've been renting there for the last 16 years. I'm here to request my support for the modifications that they have presented in the master plan here for the project of Alyeska development. The proposal that I've seen that I've been looking over and seeing this evening as well represents a significant opportunity for our community. Offering numerous benefits that align with its our shared vision, some sustainable growth, and some improved quality of life for many of us out there. Firstly, the proposed development promises to create that daycare, and that's huge. I don't have kids, but I know many that do, and it's a huge need in our community. We've experienced that surge in demand for housing, mainly for the year-round residents, which myself, with renting for 16 years, moving from place to place, I see the Glacier City Village Phase 4 providing a range of those housings to ensure that families, young professionals like myself, and can begin to find places there to live. It's crucial for us to have a diverse, vibrant community. I see that with what they're offering. Secondly, I see that they're including some plenty of green spaces, recreational areas with the rec center, places connecting us in with the existing trails, even adding some additional connectors to those. So I feel those amenities won't only beautify our community, but also provide some more vital spaces for relaxation and recreations for many of us. Lastly, I do collaborate the approach taken by Pomeroy and Alyeska Resort. I've seen them over the last several years immensely engage with the community there, holding several town halls, asking folks, workers, small workers, employees, and their willingness to incorporate that stuff and has to reflect our community needs has been a huge gaining my support. So in conclusion, I wholeheartedly support this land development, and I present a balanced and thoughtful approach to growth, addressing our housing needs, enhancing our quality, and promoting sustainability and economic prosperity. So I urge you guys to make this and approve this project and help our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify, please step forward.
Someone's phone's here.
Somebody's phone's up here. It's a Kinney Engineering phone, maybe, or a Crystal Hoke phone. Any final questions from the commission? Oh, we do have some phone testimony. We'll move to the phone testimony.
Can you speak up? Yeah, no, I did.
volume. Hello, is this Max Kubitz?
Yeah, speaking.
Hi, Max. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission calling for public testimony in case 2024-0061. Are you testifying as an individual or representing a group?
As an individual.
I apologize, Max. Could you try repeating that? Max, we weren't able to hear you. Could you try that again?
Yeah, as an individual.
One last time, please.
As an individual?
As an individual. Thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. My name is Max Kubitz. I'm a resident of Anchorage. I learned to ski and snowboard on Mount Alyeska in my youth. Still ski there to this day. I'd like to testify tonight in support of this development. I'm the co-owner of Turnigan Ceramics, a close-knit community pottery studio in South Addition, Anchorage, with the mission of bringing pottery to everyone in our community through classes, memberships, kids' summer camps, and events. We've had an amazing community built of talented artists, enthusiastic hobbyists, knowledgeable instructors, curious students through the past 2 years, and all of these people connect through our studio. We think that Girdwood is a community that appreciates things that we appreciate: community collaboration, learning, coming together through art. We would love an opportunity to bring a community-focused pottery studio to Girdwood, and think that the proposed developments in discussion tonight create that opportunity for Alaskan businesses like ours. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Max. I misspoke. You actually have 6 minutes to testify. Did you want to use more time?
I think I would additionally say, as someone who has spent much time in Girdwood, I would, I would echo a lot of the sentiments from tonight. I think addressing some of the housing issues, I have to be at the forefront of kind of any development, and I think this group has done a fantastic job of keeping that discussion at the core. And I am excited to see this development go through and spend more time in Girdwood. Thank you.
No questions.
Thank you, Max. I'm going to hang up now.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Hi, you've reached Justina. Please leave me a message.
I'll try dialing one more time.
Hello?
Hi, is this Justina Phillips?
This is.
This is the Planning and Zoning Commission calling for public testimony in case 2024-0061. Are you testifying as an individual or representing a group?
As an individual.
Cool. You'll have 6 minutes to testify. You may begin. Thank you.
Great. I'd like to add I'm a Girdwood resident, a board member of Little Bears Playhouse, and the chair of the building committee for the new child care facility and early learning center that will be located on Alyeska Resort's Tract B on its own frag lot, which is outlined in the packet that you have here. Just would like to echo previous testimonies by Crystal and Joan that our humble nonprofit, Little Bears Playhouse, is extremely grateful for this site and the opportunity to address our local child care crisis. Our ability to move forward on the construction of this project hinges on the approval of Phase 1 of this development. I'm stating my support and appreciation for inclusion of this amendment to the existing master plan and the revised frag lots, which will bring a vital resource to our community. And we hope that we can continue our work on this much-needed facility. Thank you.
I see no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Justina. Have a good night.
Any further questions from the commission? Oh, we will move to the rebuttal first.
I appreciate all the questions and comments from everyone. Start the clock. I mean, we have really engaged the community on this, and I think a lot of people appreciate many of the phases. A lot of people appreciate all of the phases. Some not so much on the fourth phase. But we spent a lot of time planning that as well. And what came up, meeting after meeting, developments that were proposed within Girdwood was this lack of housing. It's always asked for. And especially something that is attainable, something that is not offered in Girdwood currently. That tract of land there represents, if not the most, it is likely the most developable tract, maybe with the exception of Tract B, which is already pretty well graded and gravel. But that area, it's close to utilities, it's close to current infrastructure. The other tracts, they simply aren't as developable. And wouldn't result in the same product that we are proposing out there. That can be attested to by Grant Matthews, who is responsible for the civil projects in most of projects in Girdwood. Yeah, I'll give him a couple minutes to speak as well. Thanks.
Yeah, my name's Grant Matthews. I'm with Triad Engineering. And as Willem mentioned, we do a lot of private development work in Girdwood. Girdwood is just a very challenging place to build. You have wetlands, streams, topography, avalanche risks. The Glacier Creek area is relatively flat and has a lot of developable space. So I think there's been a lot of discussions about the comp plan and how that's going through the process. And the fact is, we amend comp plans quite often when a private developer comes with a great idea. And I know when the comp plan started, Pomeroy wasn't here proposing a bunch of housing, but here they are. And I think they've done a really good job incorporating trails, breaking that up with open space and protecting the natural environment too. I don't know if anyone's been to the Nordic Spa or walked the Winter Creek Trail behind it, but you really can get that preserved feel of the wilderness there with development nearby. And that area is zoned GRST2. It's zoned for mixed-use development. So it's uphill of sewer, so you could get gravity sewer to work, and that provides for denser development than you otherwise would. And yeah, I think Commissioner Krishna, hit the nail on the head that the open space and housing are at odds, but this area is really a great spot for housing, and someone is here proposing to build housing. Happy to talk more about that if there's any other questions.
We do have a question from Commissioner Strike.
Thank you, and through the chair. In listening to earlier testimony, there does appear to be a direct conflict with the but the proposed new comprehensive plan that's being developed. And so obviously we want to see that comprehensive plan, what the board has come up with, and see if that conflict exists and so forth. But how do we get you in alignment with the Girdwood board and this new comprehensive plan? Because there seems to be a disconnect. What appears to be coming out is in direct conflict with what you're proposing. How do we get the two minds together if that in fact is a conflict?
Yeah, Willem could maybe speak to that too. I mean, there's been a lot of outreach, I know, and you've heard a lot of community support for this plan. I think, even if that comp plan moves forward, the area is still zoned for resort development. So it's, I mean, even if it gets put as open space on the map, that doesn't change its underlying zoning. And like I said, here is a developer here to build housing, and that's what Girdwood really needs. So I think there is obviously a debate within the community, and some people testified here tonight in support of the development, and some testified against it. But I think that it would provide a community benefit, and it's a very developable part of the valley.
I guess my concern is I don't want it to appear like it's a cram down to the folks that have been working, upwards of 400 folks or whatever, working on the comprehensive plan that we're hearing overwhelmingly are against the Glacier Creek Village and its purpose. And again, we're going off of, is this a race notice type of situation? We got there before they did. We're not going to see the comprehensive plan, and I guess this is a question to the staff, until July.
July 15th is what I was told, but can we back up for a minute? I'm going to cancel the commissioner's questions for right now. I want the petitioner to finish out. You have 3 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to use or forfeit that time, then we'll move into questions.
Yeah, I'll continue to use it, and also kind of talk about this a little more. That Girdwood Comprehensive Plan was being developed without the knowledge of our project, and done with the knowledge of that area being developed for trails. And I think similar to a lot of resort markets, trails interact with housing all over the place. There needs to be a balance between housing and trails, because every developable area in Girdwood will interact with an existing trail or a proposed trail. They will be in everyone's backyard within any developable area that is being proposed in the new comp plan. So, what we've proposed here and what we did with Skylab Architecture is design a neighborhood with the Bill Spencer. He is the person who designed that trail. We looked at several iterations that he had designed, and we worked within those iterations. So finding a balance between housing and nature, it is just natural in a resort market. It's what we've done. It's what we'll continue to do. And as we work through this process, as that area shifts with the development master planning process, we will continue to work with the Trails Committee, with the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. But this is an area to provide housing for the current generation of Girdwood, but also the future generations of Girdwood, to raise families, to live in. The 1995 comp plan contemplated 10,000 people living there. And there's a reason why it hasn't increased to that size, and because there's really been no development. What we're proposing here would be the first large-scale residential development in addition to our other 3 phases. So I think there's a perfect opportunity for recreation to work with housing similar to what is all around the resort right now. There are trails all around Alyeska, all around Tract A, Tract B, and this is that opportunity. So it needs to happen in a place like this because trails are prominent, but housing is needed. So yes, we are providing that opportunity and willing to work with the community to provide something that's truly needed and something that's obviously very much wanted and used. And I thank you to the commission. I guess I'll leave it there.
All righty. Question from Commissioner Winchester.
Thank you. Hey, in our packet, we were provided a Village of Alyeska community meeting summary, and in there was a question about the total area of the master plan. And in the answer, it said we'd be looking at adding approximately 70 additional acres for the Glacier Creek, of which 27 approximately would be considered for developable area.
Yeah.
So why the difference between 27 and 70? Is it topographical? Is it trail?
So the actual area is several hundred acres large, and because we wanted to stay under the, and that 70 roughly acres has increased to 94.3 acres, and the reason why 27.4 acres is designated as developable is because that is the area within the land use plan that is allowed to be developed. So the rest of that area would be dedicated to open space, would be dedicated to trails, and we would have no plans in developing that. And that 94.3 acres is within that 25% threshold that allows it to be a modification to the area master plan. So 27.4 acres of developable area, and even at that, we're proposing homes in there, but we're not planning on just going and clear cutting everything. Similar to what we did with our Nordic spa, we had a very comprehensive tree survey done. If you've been through the forest loop in there, we pretty much try and preserve every single tree that is within that. We plan to do the same thing within this neighborhood. That's to have, a nature immersed neighborhood that has trails integrated into it.
Any further questions from the commission? Seeing none. Thank you.
Also, if you have any questions about traffic, I have Scott here from Kinney Engineering, but
I looked to my engineer.
Okay.
And he's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I sit down now? Do I sit down?
Yeah. Until we change our mind. Okay, now, any final questions before I close the public hearing? Oh, Commissioner Pulis.
I have a question for staff. Currently, the map on page 28, the land use plan, the A expand area, is that currently resort? Or are we expanding it resort? Because I'm confused as to whether it's, what's the controlling zoning, resort or recreation reserve currently?
Through the chair, Mr. Pulis, this is the Girdwood Area Plan as adopted, map 11 within the plan. And, the hotels on tract A, the lower parking lots on tract B, there's other development in those other tracts. This, where it's written A expansion area, that's tract I. It's tract I, and it's several hundred acres. It would need to be subdivided to create a developable tract for this, and that's what this area master plan is calling the tract A expansion area.
And that's
So the designation is resort, and the zoning is GRST 2. That was your question, I'm sorry.
And that's where Meadow Creek would go, is in that A expand area?
The Glacier Creek.
Glacier Creek, I'm
Village,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Apologize.
I actually thought of one more question for you. So we heard public testimony about the area, the contentious area, and it's currently public land. I'm slightly familiar with the RFP for disposal of the HLB land, but I think the commission, if you could explain who holds the land, where the line is, just a little bit more information for the commission, I think that they might benefit from just a little explanation on that.
There we go. So this was started before my time, but I know where we currently are with it. So this is Heritage Land Bank land, and we submitted an RFP in partnership with another group. Eventually that RFP or partnership, when we won the RFP for the rights to pursue that land for development agreement with the HLB, we bifurcated it when we split partnerships with that group, and that is the project known as Holton Hills. So we essentially separated where Glacier Creek separates the tract of land, and we pursued that half. They pursued their project, so we don't have any relation with the project. And yes, we would have to go through the HLB disposal of that land, and we're in the process of that right now, but it has not been finalized. We did get permission from the HLB to pursue these zoning designations or amendment to the master plan to include that area. So I could pull up a map and show you the area if you wanted to see that as well.
I don't, if anybody, nobody seems to need that. So, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Strike?
So through this whole process of looking at this land and looking at the changes, you were not in coordination with the Girdwood Board of Supervisors or on the master plan, the comprehensive plan. So these were two tacts that were happening independently. You two parties never spoke in the last year about this.
No, we did. And I think that process was started a long time before our process. And that area, I think, with regards to the trails plan that was proposed as well and approved, would have wanted to see that whole area designated as open space to include those trails. And what we've proposed here includes both trails and housing, but we did have the opportunity to coordinate with GBOS several times on this, and that through the public meeting, that through just individual engagement with them, and through this meeting with the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, our official community meeting. Initially we actually did receive a resolution of support for the whole project, and that was a 3-2 vote. So we did initially receive a resolution of support, which we were extremely excited about. A day later, there was a reconsideration where we lost 2-3. So I think there is they know that our intentions are good. They know that that development area, really meets what's needed in Girdwood. But it's sometimes tough to see change in development, and we realize that the area is wanted for open space by a large amount of the community, but there's also a large amount of the community that needs this for housing.
I mean, and I see the advantage. I've probably been down to Girdwood more than anybody in this room, and lived down there. And I see the need. But what I'm having a concern with and trying to come to grasp with the separation between the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, their program, your development plan. Something's missing. They're not talking to each other in relationship to this particular piece of land. Now, when this land was conjoined with your previous partner, it got struck down. Mm-hmm. But now you bifurcated the agreement, you've split the parties, you split the sheet, so to speak. You're taking this piece of land and going to run it through independently. And the Girdwood Board has approved this? They haven't even seen it.
Can I just respond to this?
Let's hear.
I don't know that you asked the question. I want to just say on the record that the comprehensive plan has not come before this body. We will have a public hearing on this plan that we're speaking about. And he did mention that the vote was 2-3. So I don't want to spend too much time belaboring this, but I'll let you finish.
And we will see this plan in July, and I agree. But again, our approval is approving based on the previous 1995 comprehensive plan.
I just want to get the questions out. This is time for question, not discussion. So.
The two parties aren't talking. I don't see the, you mentioned the 2-3 vote and so forth, but I'm still seeing a direct conflict, and we've got a new comprehensive plan. And so my reluctance in moving forward is I'm inclined to say I want to see a postponement until after we see the comprehensive plan.
Commissioner Strike, that's not a question.
Okay.
We'll put a motion on the table, and then we'll have a discussion, and that's the appropriate time to start making those comments.
Thank you.
I'm not sure where I am right now.
You're good. I think I see no more questions in the queue. If there's any more questions, but if we want to discuss, we can move on. But any final call for questions?
I could just do a quick reply to Commissioner Strike about some of that.
Okay.
Or not.
Okay.
And it's
Brief.
really
Let's
quick.
make it brief.
It's just, we are in a development timeline here to start and getting things approved, and I think, what's been proposed by the comp plan is great, but, what we're working with right now is the current plan, what's there, and we do see a good opportunity to work with them together here, but there's no guaranteed timeline for that proposed comp plan as well. That still has to go through your commission, the assembly, and we're not certain as to where that goes, so waiting on that could be more time. And Girdwood needs housing now with our workforce housing and future housing. But thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Pretty good. All right. We are going to close the public hearing. What is the will of the body? Commissioner Ron, would you like to state your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move in case 2024-0061 to approve the modifications to the Alyeska Resort Area Master Plan subject to the conditions shown on page 13 of the staff report.
That is seconded by Commissioner Krishna. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fellow commissioners, I do intend to support the motion. I concur with staff's findings in terms of conformance and meeting of the criteria as laid out in applicable code. I appreciate that staff started with definitions of both area master plan and development master plan, orienting the commission on what it is we're here to hear about. And I'd like to call out in that definitional criteria of an area master plan the element of providing for land use compatibility and development responding to site-specific environmental constraints and opportunities. As a commissioner of this board, I'd like to commend the applicant for the efforts that they have made to design with a context-sensitive approach to the environment. Not often do we see proposed developments that look to avoid and perhaps will achieve the full avoidance of things like wetlands in their approach. Would also like to acknowledge the interactions that the applicant has had with the community. We did hear an awful lot about where some elements of the community stood with respect to Glacier Creek. For the record, would like to acknowledge that GBOS was not unanimous in their resolution. What that means, I'm not quite sure, other than the fact that they were not unanimous. For those reasons and a few other that I haven't stated, I do intend to support, and we'll stop talking now. Thanks.
Commissioner Krishna.
Sure, I'll add that I agree with Commissioner Ron's findings. I'd also like to add that we've had a high level of public testimony here, a lot of folks in attendance, and we've heard some extremely moving testimony about both the need for housing and the need for a new child care center, both of which would be included in this plan. And for those reasons, I also intend to support this motion.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you. I apologize. I probably maybe should have raised this earlier, but I have a question for staff. And it relates to the question I asked originally about the effect of an approved area master plan. And I think some of the testimony we heard earlier cited a provision in code, which is 2109-030E5. And I guess that person's interpretation of it maybe conflicted a little bit with the answer that I received. And I was wondering if you could clarify, I guess first, if that is the section of code that would govern kind of the relationship between the area master plan and any development plan requests. And if so, there's language in that section that says an approved area master plan creates a presumption that design, density, uses, and site layout set forth in the plan are acceptable to the municipality. And to the extent you have a sense, I'm curious of how the planning department would interpret that and what types of things they would look for that might kind of affect that presumption when it comes time to evaluating a development request.
Thank you for the question. I'd be happy to clarify. In a moment, I'll try and look up the citation that you just listed that Mr. Edgington cited. it seemed to me that with regard to what would take precedent, the plan, the Girdwood area plan, presumably, or the area master plan, the approved area master plan by the commission. So what would happen if you play this out? It's pretty simple. Some time in the future, the resort would submit development master plan phase 4 that would come before the commission, and the approval criteria would be the first one. On page 7 of your packet, you can read development master plan approval criteria, and A reads, so this is the first approval criteria for approving a development master plan. It says, the development master plan substantially conforms to the principles and objectives of the Girdwood area plan, any approved neighborhood, district, or areas plan, and the general purpose of this chapter is stated in section 2109.010. So in that, what I read from code here is the first approval criteria. It says that the Girdwood area plan would be part of the, as Mr. Edgington pointed out, and then it also says in the area plan, I think that I'd take that to be the area master plan. So they would both have to be weighed.
Thank you for that clarification.
Well, since we're asking questions of staff, do we have HLB's opinion on this?
Through the chair to the commission, Dave Whitfield, Planning Department. With us tonight is Tiffany Briggs, Director of Heritage Land Bank. Tiffany, would you like to speak to Phase 4 and the HLB parcel?
Tiffany Briggs, through the chair. Sure. Can you repeat specifically what you want me to speak?
Yeah, I guess there's been a comprehensive plan. Apparently, it was voted on a 3-2 vote. So 5 people in Girdwood got in a room and voted on this thing. I guess my questions are, was HLB consulted? Did HLB vote on this plan? It's HLB land. I somewhat have concerns about setting out comprehensive plans on HLB's land, and I'm just curious what HLB's thoughts are on the plan before us and the petitioner's plan on what is currently HLB land.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair. My understanding is the vote that we're talking about was for the GBOS resolution of support, and we were not at that discussion. We had an RFP out. Pomeroy was awarded. We currently have a letter of intent with them. We're working toward development. We are supportive of this being mixed-use development as it currently is in the current plan.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you. Just, I guess, a finding that I'll add as a follow-up to my question to staff. I think for me, the approval criteria are pretty clearly met as it currently applies, and it's obvious a lot of work went into this, and I think in many ways it meets a lot of really important needs for Girdwood. The one bit that it felt a little odd to be approving this, where the first approval criteria for the modification of the area master plan approval does point to, or maybe not the first, conformance to the Girdwood area plan, and knowing that the plan that we have not yet seen granted, but that in very near future the plan might really conflict strongly with the proposed uses in this plan, just felt odd to me, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And I think Commissioner Strike spoke earlier about kind of the first to the post, and I didn't really know how to think about that. But it does meet the criteria as it's currently set forth in the plan, and I think I do plan to support the motion. And part of what makes me feel better about resolving that tension is the fact that when we do get to phase 4, however many years down the road that is. There will be a public process to review the development master plan associated with that. The approval criteria does, notwithstanding the area master plan, allow for consideration of what the current situation looks like, the current input from the public looks like at that time. And additionally, it sounded like some of the changes or the thinking that drove the change in the land use designation for that area for the expansion along Glacier Creek was partly a reflection of the fact that back in 1995, the thought was that the resort would be much larger than it is now, and it was an effort to kind of align with what things look like now. But that is in the process of changing, and so I think considerations may look different in 5 or 7 years or whenever it is that we get to that phase 4, and there'll be an opportunity to look at that and go through that evaluation process at that time.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? I also intend to support the motion, and I will say that the landowner of the controversial piece of land also seems to be in support of the plan, and that carries a lot of weight with me. Commissioner George.
Thank you, through the chair. The previous 2 commissioners, I guess I'll kind of tack on both of those. I do intend to support the motion. You know, I grew up in this area. I was a resident of Girdwood when the 1994 plan was put in place. There was a lot of talk about what it would look like in the future, and that just never came to pass. And so I know that attitudes about what the resort was capable of delivering on and within the community with promises over the years maybe made some people feel not like engaging in the process, but I am actually quite impressed with what has been brought forward here as someone who grew up in the community, and I see how in-depth this proposal is. I see that it actually has been before the community. I see there has been input. I want to actually document that here. But I also want to touch upon the point, one about, you know, this land, Heritage Land Bank land is all of our land. As someone who lived in Girdwood, we thought of it as kind of, you know, our future land. And so while it may be the municipalities, the hope is that it has a future use beyond being locked up in the government, like all of the federal and state uses around us. And it looks like that process is being followed now. It's interesting to watch this parcel be disposed of so seamlessly after watching 3 years of another parcel nearby from Heritage Land Bank go through a rather arduous process of hundreds of very passionate individuals sharing their opinions on housing in Girdwood, and I don't see any of them, for the most part, engaging in this process here tonight. So maybe that's a testament to Pomeroy. I don't know. Maybe it's fatigue from the argument, or maybe they're just saving their powder for the assembly. But to also touch upon the question of which master plan will govern when Phase 4 comes before the eventual commission comprised of members that probably aren't here tonight. And I would say, you know, it seems to be that the resolution that we've come up with here is that there will be a weighing of the fact that this is being approved under the existing master plan, which is the right of the individual bringing the application before the commission. You know, you should be judged according to the code as exists, not some code that might exist in the future. And then also, we may have a different Girdwood master plan. And a future commission will have to weigh those, and so perhaps that's just caveat emptor for a developer. But I don't know, it's not the kind of resolution I would want to give to someone who's really investing in our community to that degree. So, you know, I have to say that we have a code and we have a plan that's in place now, and until it's changed, until it's adopted by the assembly and finalized, we have to follow it. So with all of that, I appreciate the indulgence of the committee and the commission, excuse me, and I intend to support. Thank you.
I see no one else in the queue. We'll call for the vote.
Ms. Eber, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Now we will have a second motion on that case. Commissioner Pullis, would you like to state your motion?
Yes, I move in case 2024-0061 to approve the development master plan for Alyeska subdivision Prince Edition, tracks A and B, subject to the conditions shown on page 13 of the staff report.
That is seconded by Commissioner Gardner. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just real quick, I think it supports the area and development master plan, and the department recommendation resolve all requirements put forth by the reviewing agencies, so I intend to support it.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Ms. Heber, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we will be moving on to case S12778. Looking for a motion. We are ready for a motion. Commissioner Pullis, would you like to state your motion?
There we go. I move in case S12778 to approve the amendment to commercial trag fragment lot site plan for 24 months, subject to the conditions shown on pages 4 and 5 of the staff report.
That's seconded by Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Pullis, would you like to speak to the motion?
Not really. Help me, Jim. Nobody has nothing?
Through the chair to the commission, Dave Whitfield, Planning Department again, I would ask for some findings in this, and I recognize that this might be a simple issue to deal with tonight, but I do find findings to be very important, so please give us some findings.
Well, I intend to support the motion. I don't think we heard any disagreement or community pushback on this proposal. And I will just state for the record that there will be future public hearings on the comprehensive plan, the future plans for Girdwood, as well as the lovely process of HLB disposal or anything never to come to fruition on that. And as if you paid attention to Holton Hills, it can be lengthy and there's plenty of room for engagement. Commissioner Gardner.
I'll just note as well, we did receive a resolution of support from the Girdwood Board of Supervisors in this case that was passed and approved unanimously.
Call for the vote.
Ms. Heber?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. All right, we will move on to, that concludes the public hearings. Thank you. We'll move on to commissioners' comments. Commissioner Krishna, did you want to? Did you have a comment?
I would ask my comment, I guess, is a question, which is, would either the chair or a member of staff please provide us with some information about what to expect at next week's meeting and how commissioners might best prepare?
Through the chair to the commission, unfortunately, I'm not prepared to answer that question tonight. What I would like to do or like to propose in this particular case is to bring this back to the planning director, bring it up to long-range planning, who's overseeing the project I believe you're referring to, the home initiative, and provide you a written response via email this week, if that would be appropriate.
Sure, and I'll just add to that. I did have some conversation or some email and a conversation with Long Range. And for the commission's benefit, what we're expecting to see is the assembly and the planning staff have been working together. Planning staff is expecting to put out a memo with new recommendations, revised recommendations, and I've urged them to get those to us as soon as possible. I kind of brought up some of the things I put in my statements in the last hearing, and I said, well, I would like to know, should commissioners be providing what maybe an example of what they're thinking are things they want to see as conditions, rather than doing it the night of the meeting, and staff kind of urged against that, but they did say that their proposed recommendations might address some of the things that were stated in the last meeting. So I guess that's the update. I pushed them to do it as soon as possible, but I was promised this week. So I'm not sure when that'll come out, but that's what we know thus far.
Chair Spinelli, can I respond to that?
Sure.
I very appreciate your suggestions. Certainly it's our desire to get you a memo, get you responses as quickly as possible, and I believe, as you have already heard from staff, we will do that as soon as possible this week. With respect to commissioners providing suggestions to staff that would be incorporated in that memo, my suggestion would be that the commissioners hold on to those suggestions and during the meeting bring those suggestions up and incorporate them into their findings, rather than staff taking those and trying to speak for the commission in that memo. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I'll just add that for the commission, the assembly's going to hear this thing on June 25th, and so if we don't move something forward with our recommendations, then we basically forfeit our voice. And so I would urge everybody, if you feel strongly about one thing or another, or just have it maybe prepared so that it's not as sloppy the night of, but that would just be my recommendation or comment. Sharon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate your last commentary about ensuring that our voice is heard, but would also like to remind the commission that abstaining is a form of making your voice heard as well. So would like to caution all commissioners to make sure that we have what we individually need in order to act on something one way or another.
This is true. Commissioner Krishna.
Sure. I guess my request to staff would be that even a little bit of guidance about nomenclature would be helpful. I think we've already used the words findings, amendments, and recommendations, and I think a little bit of guidance as to the format in which any one of those things that we're doing would take and how we would properly phrase one of those next week, I think is something that we will need, or else we'll make a huge muddle of it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, and certainly we will do our best.
Dave, I think you can answer this one on the fly. So findings, any one of us can just make a finding and say whatever we wanted. But if we have proposed recommendations that the commission votes on, that's actually been voted on by the commission. So I think, can we just get a little clarification around that?
Sure, and I can do that on the fly, so thank you, I appreciate that. Findings for those, well, I think most of you know what findings are. Findings are the reasons why you're making the decisions that you're making. They are very important in the case of an appeal, and that's why I urge the commission tonight to establish findings in all of these cases, as simple as it might be. What I think Mr. Spinelli and Ms. Krishna are suggesting are amendments, and so there is a very clear distinction between the two. One is a reason for you doing what you're doing or making the decision that you're making, and the other is you actually amending the proposal in front of you. Is that clear? Is that?
Yeah, and in this instance, the amendments or suggested changes are in the form of staff recommendations at the end, kind of.
Well, you have the ability to amend the staff recommendations. Remember, in this particular case, the home initiative, you are recommending to the assembly what should go forward. And so you have the ability as the commission to make amendments to staff's recommendations.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm kind of urging the commission to do. I would prefer, rather than to abstain wholeheartedly, I think it would be more constructive if we sent a message that said, like, you know, I don't want to outlaw greenhouses, but I do want to outlaw pink houses. That's my recommendation.
A moment. Making an amendment does not necessarily mean that you agree with the motion or what's been put forth. It can also mean that if it goes before the assembly, you want the amendment to be incorporated into it. You can still vote no to the motion, but push for an amendment in the event that it goes forward that you get a little bit better. So having an amendment in there doesn't mean that you're agreeing with it. It means that you're trying to make it more palatable in the event it gets passed or for consideration by the assembly.
Yes.
No is still an option.
Yes. Okay. I think any further comments? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn. That's all, folks.